Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much again for being here and continuing to follow my story. When we left off, I had told you about meeting Walter, who I'm calling him Walter. His name's not Walter, but I don't know where that name came from. But just as I'm telling the story, so that I have a word of reference there. So I had applied for the apartment end of January. I met him the beginning of February, and things seemed to be going along really well. We were talking, daily, and it was nice to have, someone to being in this house that I was in with Kate and her nephew, and as difficult as that continued to be, she actually around that time. Oh, okay. So when I had applied for the apartment, they of course ask you for landlord reference. And I didn't think they were going to call my landlord right away, but they did. So after I found out, I called her and I said, "Oh, please don't tell Kate that I'm moving at this time because I don't want anything going on at the house if something falls through or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, no, no, I give you a great reference. You've been great." So probably within that second week of February, I came home from work and there's this letter stuck in my door, my room door. And so when I opened it, I hardly like really read it. Actually, let me back up. I think a couple days before that, um, like the nephew never, except for like him taking my food, him and I always had nice discussions or whatever like that. I knew he, of course, was committed to his aunt and wasn't going to go against what she wanted. But anytime I saw him, "Hey, how you doing? How's it been? What have you been up to?" Stuff like that. Um, so I think I had got up one day and I went in to cook something, and I didn't realize she was in her bedroom laying down. So I kind of had a discussion with him, "How you doing? What's going on?" And he had said he had went somewhere for a walk. And I said, "Oh, I said earlier I had gone to so and so park to take a walk." And yeah, so I'm, at the stove cooking, and I thought she had left the house. And then she got up and came out of her room. She had been listening to our conversation. And I said, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Like that. She went in the dining room and sat down, and from the dining room, she could kind of see me. And it was a thing. It was like always like watching every step that I took, which was like just super weird. And so she gets up and she comes by the stove, and when you're cooking your food, when somebody like staring at your food, and she's like, "So I was thinking maybe you and I could go out for tea someday, just one day, and just have, talk." And I'm like, "Oh no," I said, I'm really not doing a lot with others right now. I'm saying I'm really just keeping to myself and concentrating on things that I need to get done." I said, "Well," I said, "you have a lot of friends, right?" I said, "Maybe one of your friends will want to go out with you for tea." Just trying to give her an alternative to me. And she's like, "Well, yeah, I got friends." And I know before she had said to me that people didn't take her well, you know? I think he's just like kind of clingy. Remember, I don't know if you remember, I had in one of the other episodes, I kept seeing it because like nature like really speaks to me. And um, I kept seeing these mosquitoes in the house and never saw mosquitoes before. It was too cold for them to be out. And I'm like, what's going on? And she had this guy over. So I thought thinking you think of a mosquito, it's like irritating, it like bites you and like, and like, you're just like trying to get rid of it or whatever. It's just irritating. So I was thinking it was the guy was going to be that way to her. Like she would say to me, oh, I had to get rid of him. He was irritating, like that. But I started to understand that it was her, and that was why the guys kept leaving. And if you remember, she had said, maybe you can do a reading on me to figure out why I can't keep a man. So anyway, she goes back and sits in the dining room, and I could see her whole face change. I took my food into the room, I ate, and pretty soon I get a text. And she's kind of like, well, I didn't like your response, that really hurt me. And I'm like, you asked me if I wanted tea to go out for tea, and I'm like, no. And that's the thing too, is before for myself, I was always a people pleaser. And even things I didn't want to do, I would always do just to please other people. And then I would end up getting hurt in some way. So now I'm trying to stand up for myself and say, no, I really don't want to be in your energy because I don't like your energy. And I say to her, no, thank you, but I appreciate it. Then I got I don't, I'm hurt by you and all this other stuff. And there goes that mosquito energy. So I just like deleted the message. I didn't respond or anything. Anyway, going back to now, there's this letter in my door, and I read through it really quick, and she kind of blamed it on saying that. Um, so the whole thing was when I first went to look at the room, when we sat down, the three of us, she had said to me, um, my nephew's new to the area. She says maybe you can make some suggestions on where he can go and what he can do to kind of meet people and stuff like that. Like, I'm almost 60 years old. The kid is like 20. I think he's 20. Was he 20 or 23? I think he's only 20, something like that, 21, something along there. So every time I would come across something, I would go to a park or whatever, I would come home and say, oh, I just went here. I said, this would be a great place. Or I had gone to the mall one day and he had been making these really nice shirts um, that had like the main pine tree on it. And he said, I saw vendors at the mall selling like, their wares. And I said, maybe you might be interested in doing something like that. I was always giving him ideas. So anyway, in the letter, it was something to the effect that, she had never said this to me, but it seemed like she was implying maybe to impress her family or whatever that I was supposed to be taking him places. And I'm like, you never said that, first of all. And I certainly would have not that I wouldn't have agreed to it, but it would been awkward for me. So anyway, she says, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave in the letter by the end of the month. And I had already planned on leaving. I didn't want to be there anymore. I couldn't, the energy was so bad. And I kind of just ripped up the letter and I purposely put it in the kitchen garbage. so that anyone opening up the garbage would see it right there. And I wanted her to know, like, you're not going to, how do I want to say this? The word keeps escaping me every time. You're not going to make demands of me. That's not what I want to say. Scare tactics, whatever, I don't know. But so much had been happening, and I was just really sick of it at this point. Anyway, by the second, towards the end of the second week of February, I learned that I got the apartment. And I was so, so happy. And I called Walter and I told him, I said, I got the apartment because I just wanted to get out of there so bad. And he said real low on the phone, he says, do you need help moving? And I didn't hear what he said at first. And I wanted to like, did he really say that? And he says, do you need help moving? Now I had only known him 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Because he had a pickup truck. And I was like, I didn't have that much stuff. And I could have made a couple trips um, with my Jeep. But him having to do that, offering to help me move, I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, yes, great. Thank you. So that was another thing that was really touching with him, that after only knowing me for 2 weeks, that he was offering to like help me move. And um, starting to see this guy as being like a really good guy so far. Uh, so I'll leave it there. So when I come back next time, I'll talk more about the whole move and everything and how that went. All right, so I'll see you in the next one.